My name is Jared Thompson, a 28-year-old software engineer at a mid-sized tech startup in San Francisco. Life was going pretty smoothly. I had a decent job, a cozy apartment, and a close-knit group of friends. That is, until the company retreat that changed everything. Our startup, Techno Innovations, had experienced a breakthrough year, so the bosses decided to splurge on a luxurious retreat at a rustic lodge in the heart of the Redwood forest. The lodge was charming, with its wood-paneled walls, plush furniture, and a sprawling deck overlooking the majestic trees. The star of our company was undoubtedly Emma Larson, a brilliant data scientist who had joined us just a year ago. With her sharp intellect, unwavering work ethic, and infectious positivity, she had quickly become the management's favorite. And if I'm being honest, I had developed a bit of a crush on her myself. During the first evening's banquet, I found myself stealing glances at Emma as she mingled effortlessly with the higher-ups. She looked stunning in her emerald green dress, her blonde hair cascading down her shoulders. I, on the other hand, was content to nurse my whiskey in a corner, occasionally engaging in small talk with my fellow engineers. As the night wore on and the alcohol flowed freely, I found myself getting increasingly tipsy. The room started to spin, and I knew it was time to call it a night. I stumbled out of the banquet hall, trying to remember the way to my room. Room 27, there it was. I fumbled with the key card, finally managing to unlock the door. As I stepped inside and flicked on the light, my heart nearly stopped. There, standing in the middle of the room, was Emma. Wearing nothing but a lacy black bra and matching panties. For a moment, we just stared at each other, equally shocked. Then, as the reality of the situation sank in, I stammered out an apology and quickly backed out of the room, slamming the door shut behind me. My mind was reeling as I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath. I had just walked in on Emma, the goddess of our company, in a state of undress. I was mortified, convinced that my career was over. She would surely report me to HR, and I'd be fired on the spot. But as I replayed the scene in my mind, something caught my attention. Just before I had closed the door, I had noticed a large, purplish bruise on Emma's ribs. It looked painful, and I couldn't help but wonder how she had gotten it. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a sense of dread in the pit of my stomach. I knew I had to face Emma and apologize for my drunken mistake. I found her sitting alone at breakfast, picking at a bowl of fruit. "Emma, I am so sorry about last night," I began, my voice shaking. "I was drunk and I thought it was my room. I swear I didn't see anything." To my surprise, Emma didn't seem angry. She looked up at me with a sad smile. "It's okay, Jared. I know it was an accident. But you did see something, didn't you? The bruise?" I nodded, unsure of what to say. Emma sighed, pushing away her bowl. "Everyone always says that I'd be perfect if it weren't for that damn birthmark. It's like a stain on my otherwise flawless image." I was taken aback by her vulnerability. The confident, put-together Emma I knew was nowhere to be seen. In that moment, she was just a young woman, insecure about her perceived imperfections. "I don't think there's such a thing as perfect," I found myself saying. "Your birthmark, it's like your signature feature. It makes you unique. It's a part of what makes you, you." Emma's eyes widened in surprise. "You know, you're only the second person to ever say something like that to me." The first was a boy in my elementary school, back in Sweden. I had almost forgotten about him. We talked for a while longer, the awkwardness of the previous night melting away. I learned that Emma had moved around a lot as a child due to her parents' divorce, and that she had attended multiple schools before finally settling in the States. As we parted ways to start our day of team-building activities, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us. A barrier had been broken down, a connection forged. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change the course of both our lives. In the weeks following the retreat, Emma and I found ourselves gravitating towards each other at work. It started with small things, a shared smile across the office, a quick chat by the coffee machine. Before long, we were having lunch together almost every day, talking about everything from our latest projects to our hopes and dreams for the future. I learned that beneath her polished exterior, Emma was a deeply passionate person. She cared deeply about using technology to make a positive impact on the world, and her eyes would light up whenever she spoke about her latest ideas. Her birthmark, I realized, was just a small part of the complex, beautiful tapestry that made up who she was. As our friendship deepened, so did my feelings for her. I found myself looking forward to seeing her each day, my heart skipping a beat every time she laughed at one of my jokes. I knew I was falling for her, but I was hesitant to make a move. She was way out of my league, and I didn't want to risk ruining our friendship. One evening, as we were working late on a project, Emma suggested we take a break and grab dinner. We ended up at a cozy Italian restaurant, sharing a bottle of wine and talking until the waiter politely informed us that they were closing. As we walked back to the office, Emma suddenly grabbed my hand. "Jared, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice serious. "I think I'm falling for you." I was stunned. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then, a grin spread across my face. "Emma, I feel the same way. I have for a while now." She smiled, her eyes shining in the moonlight. Then, she leaned in and kissed me, soft and sweet. It was everything I had imagined and more. From that moment on, Emma and I were inseparable. We started dating, spending every spare moment together. She introduced me to her love of Swedish cinema and I taught her how to make my famous spaghetti carbonara. We talked about our childhoods, our families, our dreams for the future. I had never felt so connected to another person. But just as everything seemed perfect, trouble struck. Emma was supposed to meet with a potential investor one afternoon, but she never showed up to the meeting. She wasn't answering her phone, and no one had seen her since she left the office. I was frantic with worry. This wasn't like Emma at all. She was always reliable, always professional. For her to just disappear like this was completely out of character. As the hours ticked by with no word from her, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I remembered she had mentioned the name of the company she was meeting with, so I plugged it into my GPS and started driving. The address led me to a remote industrial area on the outskirts of the city. As I approached, I spotted Emma's car parked on the side of the road. My heart leapt into my throat as I pulled over and jumped out, calling her name. "Emma? Emma, where are you?" For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a weak voice called out from the darkness. "Jared? Is that you?" I raced towards the sound, my feet slipping on the loose gravel. There, at the bottom of a steep embankment, was Emma. She was bruised and bloodied, her clothes torn, but she was alive. I called 911 and held her hand as we waited for the ambulance, trying to keep her awake and alert. She told me that she had gotten a flat tire on her way to the meeting and had pulled over to change it. But as she was getting the spare from her trunk, someone had come up behind her and pushed her down the embankment. "I think it was my ex-boyfriend," she whispered, her voice shaking. "He's been stalking me for months, ever since I broke up with him. I didn't want to worry you, so I never said anything." I was horrified. The thought of someone hurting Emma, of her dealing with this alone, made my blood boil. I vowed then and there to protect her, no matter what. The next few weeks were a blur of hospital visits and police reports. Emma's ex was arrested and charged with assault, but the damage had been done. Emma was jumpy and anxious, plagued by nightmares of the attack. I did my best to support her, to be there for her in whatever way she needed. I cooked her meals, watched cheesy rom-coms with her, held her when she cried. Slowly but surely, she started to heal, both physically and emotionally. But just as things were starting to get back to normal, another bombshell hit. Our company was being acquired by a larger corporation, a move that would mean big changes for all of us. The worst part? The corporation was owned by none other than Emma's mother, a formidable businesswoman who Emma had a complicated relationship with. Emma was devastated. She had worked so hard to make a name for herself, to escape her mother's shadow. Now, it seemed, she was being pulled right back in. To make matters worse, her mother had taken a special interest in me. She offered me a high-level position in the new company, a chance to rise above my station, as she put it. I was torn. On one hand, it was an incredible opportunity. The kind of opportunity that could change the course of my career, my life. But on the other hand, I knew that accepting would mean betraying Emma, the woman I loved. In the end, I made the only choice I could. I turned down the offer and stood by Emma's side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. The transition after the acquisition was rocky, to say the least. Emma's mother was a force to be reckoned with, and she made it clear that she had big plans for the company, plans that didn't necessarily align with the values and culture we had worked so hard to build. Emma was under immense pressure, both from her mother and from the weight of her own expectations. She was determined to prove herself, to show that she had earned her place in the company through her own merits, not just because of her family name. I did my best to support her, both at work and at home. We moved in together, creating a sanctuary away from the chaos of the office. In the evenings, we would cook dinner together and talk about our days, our frustrations, our small victories. It wasn't easy, but we made it work. And as the months passed, something strange started to happen. Emma's mother began to take notice of me, not just as Emma's boyfriend, but as a valuable member of the team. She started inviting me to high-level meetings, asking for my input on strategic decisions. At first, I was wary, suspicious of her motives. But as I got to know her better, I realized that beneath her tough exterior, she was actually quite similar to Emma, driven, passionate, and fiercely protective of those she cared about. One evening, Emma's mother invited us over for dinner at her house. As we sat around the table, sipping wine and talking about the future of the company, she turned to me with a serious expression. "Jared," she said, "I owe you an apology. When I first met you, I judged you unfairly. I thought you were just another tech bro, more interested in your own success than in the well-being of others. But I was wrong. You have proven yourself to be a man of integrity, someone who stands by his principles and his loved ones, no matter what. I am proud to have you as part of our family, both personally and professionally." I was stunned. I had never expected to hear those words from her, the formidable businesswoman who had once seemed so intimidating. But as I looked around the table, at Emma, beaming with pride, at her mother, her eyes shining with warmth, I realized that this was exactly where I was meant to be. The years passed in a blur of hard work and happy memories. Emma and I got married in a small ceremony in the Redwood Forest, surrounded by our closest friends and family. We bought a house on the outskirts of the city, with a big backyard for our rescue dog, Scout. Emma took over as CEO of the company when her mother retired, and she led with the same passion and integrity that had always defined her. I stayed by her side, her partner in both life and business. There were challenges, of course. Long hours, tough decisions, the never-ending balancing act of work and family. But through it all, we had each other. Now, as I sit here in our living room, watching Emma sip her wine and laugh at something on her tablet, I can't help but reflect on the journey that brought us here. To think, it all started with a drunken mistake at a company retreat. A moment of embarrassment that turned into a connection, a friendship, a love story for the ages. I wouldn't trade a single moment of it. The ups, the downs, the laughter, the tears. Because through it all, we had each other. And in the end, that's all that really matters. Emma looks up from her tablet, catching me staring at her. "What are you thinking about?" she asks, a playful smile on her lips. I shake my head, grinning. "Just how lucky I am," I say. "How lucky we are." She sets down her tablet and comes over to join me on the couch, curling up against my side. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she murmurs. "We sure have," I agree, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "And I can't wait to see where the next chapter takes us." As we sit there, wrapped in each other's arms, I know that whatever the future holds, we'll face it together. Just like we always have, and just like we always will. What do you think about this story of mine? Please give me your comments below in the comments section. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel to follow the next stories. Thank you.